Hi friends, good morning. Welcome to Shankaran AI Study Circle. This is Dr. Harinath Reddy, Director of the Institute. Today in this particular video, we will try to discuss one more important topic related to Indian polity and constitution, and the topic is the concept of judicial review. The concept of judicial review. The concept of judicial review. So the various dimensions of this topic include where did this concept took both, what is judicial review, what is the significance of judicial review in any country, how does the judicial review in India differ with that of other countries like America and Britain as well as France, and then what are the provisions in the Indian Constitution which explicitly provide for the power of judicial review. So let's get started. See, the concept of judicial review, it took both in United States of America. Remember, the American Constitution did not explicitly provide for the power of judicial review. The American Constitution did not explicitly clearly provide for the power of judicial review, but it was implicit. So it was in Marbury versus Madison. This is the case, Marbury versus Madison. Marbury versus Madison. This is the case in which the American Supreme Court for the first time applied its power of judicial review, and the then Chief Justice of American Supreme Court, John Marshall, was credited with introducing the power of judicial review. So the concept of judicial review, it took both in United States of America in a case known as Marbury versus Madison. At this point of time, the Chief Justice of the American Supreme Court was John Marshall. Then in America, the American Supreme Court follows due process of law. Due process of law. This the students must have clarity. Till 1978, in India, we followed procedure established by law. Procedure established by law. Procedure established by law. This we have borrowed from Japanese Constitution. So the American system is based on due process of law. The Indian system is based on procedure established by law. And why India adopted procedure established by law and why not a due process of law? So when Indians were drafting a constitution for independent India, we had the experience of the Americans before us. In America, because of the due process of law, the judiciary enjoyed wider powers of judicial review, and so in America the judiciary became very powerful. So the Americans advised Indians not to go for due process of law to preserve the delicate balance of power among the three branches of the government: executive branch, legislative branch, and the judicial branch. So keeping the wisdom and experience of the Americans in hand, Indians adopted the procedure established by law, and this is borrowed from Japanese Constitution. Then the next question is, these two concepts are very important for understanding the concept of judicial review. Procedure established by law, due process of law. Before we go into the details of these two important things, what is judicial review? In general sense, judicial review, it refers to the powers of the judiciary to examine the actions of the executive and legislative branches to see whether these actions are in conformity with the provisions of the Constitution or not. In case these actions are not in conformity with the provisions of the Constitution, these actions can be declared as invalid. So judicial review, it refers to the power of the judicial branch to review, to reconsider, to examine the actions of the executive and legislative branches to ensure that they are in conformity with the Constitution. And now, how does the procedure established by law on due process of law differ with respect to judicial review? In America, if you take the due process of law, it is because of the due process of law, the American Supreme Court had wider powers of judicial review. In America, the American Supreme Court can declare a law made by the American Parliament as invalid not only on the grounds that it is outside the competence of the Parliament, not only on the ground that the prescribed procedure is not followed. In addition to this, if a law made by the American Parliament, if it is against the spirit of the American Constitution, if it is against the principles of the natural justice, which means if it is unjust, unfair and unreasonable, then these laws can be struck down by the American Supreme Court. That is due process of law. So under the due process of law, the courts enjoy the wider powers of judicial review to protect and expand the rights of the citizens. But if you come back to the procedure established by law, which India has adopted in the original Indian Constitution and which was continued till 1978, under the procedure established by law, if a law made by the Indian Parliament, if a law made by the Indian Parliament is challenged before the Supreme Court or the High Court, what the courts will look into is whether the Parliament or the state legislature had the competence to make such law on a particular subject matter. Whether it is within the jurisdiction and authority of the Parliament or the state legislature is the first question, which the court will try to answer. The second one, whether the prescribed procedure is followed or not. For example, in the lawmaking process in India, there are 3 stages: first reading, second reading, third reading. In the first reading, the general objectives of the bill are spelled out. In the second reading, there will be class by class discussion and amendments. And in the third reading, the bill will be either totally accepted or rejected. This is a 3-stage process. So under the procedure established by law, if a law made by the Parliament or the state legislature is challenged before the High Court or the Supreme Court, the courts will look into 2 issues: whether the Parliament or the state legislatures had the competence. The second one, whether the prescribed procedure is followed or not. If these 2 conditions are fulfilled or satisfied, then the courts will not ask any further question. Such laws will be declared as constitutionally valid. So under the procedure established by law in India, the courts cannot declare those laws which are against the spirit of the Constitution. The courts can declare only those laws which are against the letter of the Constitution. In addition to this, under the procedure established by law, the courts cannot declare the laws as invalid on the ground that they are against the principles of natural justice. Which means the courts cannot declare the laws made by the Indian Parliament or the state legislatures which are unjust, unfair and unreasonable. So this is the difference between due process of law, procedure established by law. I am repeating, under the due process of law, a court can declare a law made by the Parliament as invalid if it is against the spirit of the Constitution as well, under due process. In addition to this, the courts can also declare laws made by Parliament as invalid on the ground that they are against the principles of natural justice, which means that such laws are unjust, unfair and unreasonable. These 2 features are not present in procedure established by law. That is the difference between due process of law and procedure established by law. So in India, we have adopted the procedure established by law. So compared to the American Supreme Court, Indian Supreme Court and High Courts do not have wider powers of judicial review compared to the American Supreme Court. That's the reason why the American Supreme Court is called the third chamber. American Parliament is bicameral. There are 2 houses. The upper house is called the Senate. The lower house is called House of Representatives. So first chamber, second chamber. Because of the wider powers of judicial review of the American Supreme Court, the American Supreme Court was criticized as the third chamber or super legislature. But even in India, in Menaka Gandhi versus Union of India 1978 case, the American due process of law was applied even in the Indian context. So in India now, the courts do follow the due process of law. Then, after having discussed about what is the due process of law and the procedure established by law, how does the power of judicial review differ in India with that of America, Britain and France? If you take United States of America, I told the American Supreme Court has got wider powers of judicial review. And because of this in America, the Supreme Court, the judiciary became very powerful. Remember, American Constitution is written, American Constitution is federal, American Constitution guarantees a set of written fundamental rights. So in any country where there is a written constitution, the constitution is supreme. The supremacy of the constitution will be protected by the judiciary, which is independent in America. Because in America, the removal of the judges of the American Supreme Court is very difficult. So they enjoy autonomy and independence. In addition to this, because of the federal nature, again the judiciary has wider powers of judicial review. Because of the presence of the fundamental rights which need to be enforced, again there are wider judicial powers. And again, because of the due process of law, the American Supreme Court exercises wider powers of judicial review than any other Supreme Court anywhere in the world. So in America today, out of the three branches of the government, executive branch, legislative branch and judicial branches, in America it is the judiciary which is very powerful. Same is the case in India. Indian Constitution is written, Indian Constitution is federal, and the Constitution of India guarantees a set of written fundamental rights. So even in India, among the three branches of the government, executive, legislative and judiciary, it is the judiciary which has emerged powerful. It is the judiciary which has emerged powerful. So we stand similar with the Americans in this respect. So even in India, the courts enjoy wider powers of judicial review. And here, if you take India as an example, India, in one sense, Indian Supreme Court enjoys in certain spheres more powers of judicial review than the Supreme Court. For example, in America, a constitutional amendment act made by the American Parliament was never subjected to judicial review by the American Supreme Court. The American Supreme Court did not extend the power of judicial review to the constitutional amendment acts. But in India, after the Keshavananda Bharati judgment in 1973, even the constitutional amendment acts made under Article 368 are also subjected to judicial review of the Supreme Court in India in case there is violation of the basic features of the Indian Constitution. So the judiciary in America as well as in India, it's very powerful, and in both countries they enjoy wider powers of judicial review. Then if you take Britain, the Constitution of Britain is unwritten, mostly unwritten, and then it is not federal, it is unitary. In Britain, there is no concept of written fundamental rights. And in fact, much of the British Constitution is a creation of British Parliament. So in Britain, in United Kingdom, among all the three branches of the government, executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branch, it is the legislative branch which is powerful. So that is called parliamentary sovereignty. Parliamentary sovereignty. Parliamentary sovereignty. So in Britain, the courts have limited power of judicial review. What do you mean by parliamentary sovereignty? So the parliament is supreme, sovereign, it enjoys absolute powers. The actions of the British Parliament can never be questioned in any court of law. So to better appreciate the powers of the British Parliament, you can refer to the statement of D. Lolme. This man was a British political theorist who said that the British Parliament can do anything. D. Lolme said, British Parliament can do anything except converting a man into woman and a woman into man. So in Britain till recently, till 2009, Britain didn't have an independent judiciary. The Supreme Court of United Kingdom was set up in 2009. Earlier Britain didn't have an independent Supreme Court. So British Parliament is bicameral. The upper house is called House of Lords. The lower house is called House of Commons. So House of Lords acted as the highest court of appeal till 2009. So in Britain, the courts have limited power of judicial review. What do you mean by this? In Britain, the courts can exercise the power of judicial review only with respect to the actions of the executive branch. In Britain, the British Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, they form part of the executive branch. So what the cabinet headed by Prime Minister does can be questioned in a court of law. So in Britain, the courts exercise power of judicial review only with respect to the actions of the executive branch. In Britain, the courts cannot exercise the power of judicial review with respect to the actions of the British Parliament. So a law made by the British Parliament cannot be questioned in any court of law. So that's why we say that in Britain, the courts have limited power of judicial review because the constitution is unwritten, the constitution is not federal, and there are no written fundamental rights. And then if you take France, see the theory of separation of powers and the theory of checks and balances given by Montesquieu were adopted by the Americans for the first time. Montesquieu, this man was a French philosopher. He gave the theory of separation of powers and the theory of checks and balances in a book which he has written called The Spirit of Laws. The Spirit of Laws. This book was written well before the French Revolution. And these two theories, the theory of separation of powers and the theory of checks and balances, were adopted by the founding fathers of the American Constitution for the first time. But in France, today, now, under the Fifth Republican Constitution, the French people, they don't believe in the theory of separation of powers. They don't believe in the theory of checks and balances. So today in France, they don't follow the theory of separation of powers as well as the theory of checks and balances. That's why in France, the courts do not have the power of judicial review. In France, the courts do not have the power of judicial review. A law made by the French Parliament, a law made by the French executive cannot be challenged in any court of law by the ordinary citizens. So that is the position of judicial review in France. In France, the courts do not enjoy the power of judicial review. So that's how judicial review differs in India, in America, in Britain, and France. Then let's move further. According to Justice Syed Muhammad Qadri, according to Justice Syed Muhammad Qadri, who is this man? He was a former judge of the Indian Supreme Court. He also served in the Andhra Pradesh High Court. He graduated from Osmania University. So Justice Syed Muhammad Qadri says that there are three kinds of judicial review. The first one, judicial review of constitutional amendment acts, judicial review of central and state laws and subordinate legislation, judicial review of the actions of the executive branch. So judicial review of the constitutional amendment acts, judicial review of the central and the state laws and the rules framed under these laws, that is the subordinate legislation, and judicial review of the actions of the executive branch, the central government, the state governments, and also the actions of the authorities under the government. So these are the three categories of judicial review as explained by Syed Muhammad Qadri. Then what is the significance of judicial review? Why judicial review? In countries like India, the following are the reasons which necessitate the power of judicial review. I told Indian Constitution is written. Indian Constitution is written. So as the Constitution of India is written, in India it is the Constitution which is supreme. All the three branches of the government, they derive their authority from the Constitution. And they need to enjoy their powers within the bounds of the Constitution. There is a major philosophy called constitutionalism. Constitutionalism. What is this? What does this philosophy says? The philosophy of constitutionalism says the constitutions are supreme and the governments enjoy limited powers. So because of this, to uphold the supremacy of the Constitution, to protect the supremacy of the Constitution, we need an independent judiciary with wider powers of judicial review. Otherwise, upholding and protecting the supremacy of the constitution is not possible. This is one important reason. The second reason, Indian constitution is not only a written constitution, but it is also a federal constitution. In a federal constitution, powers are divided between the center and the states. In India, 7th schedule divides executive, legislative and financial powers between center and the states. In case if a conflict or a dispute arises between the center and the states with respect to the subjects in the 7th schedule, again the courts, especially the Supreme Court, has to intervene and should act as a troubleshooter. So maintaining the federal equilibrium is one more reason why we need judicial review. And the third one, like the American Constitution, Indian Constitution also guarantees a set of written fundamental rights. So to enforce these fundamental rights, again, we need the courts to have power of judicial review. So these are the three important reasons why there shall be power of judicial review: protecting and upholding the supremacy of the constitution, maintaining federal equilibrium, enforcing the fundamental rights which are guaranteed to the Indian citizens, which are guaranteed to the citizens under the Indian constitution. Then, what are the different articles under the Indian constitution which deal with the power of judicial review? For example, if you take article 131, this is one article. Article 131, it deals with the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. So original jurisdiction means straight away a matter can be taken before the Supreme Court. Under this article, the disputes between the center and the states, the disputes between the states and among the states can be settled by the Supreme Court. High courts do not have this power. So this is one article which confers the power of judicial review on the Supreme Court. Then after article 131, article 132. So this is appellate jurisdiction with respect to constitutional cases. If there is a case decided by the High Court on a constitutional issue, such case can be taken to the Supreme Court on an appeal. That is article 132, appellate jurisdiction in constitutional matters. Then article 133, appellate jurisdiction in civil matters. So a judgment given by the High Court with respect to civil matters can be challenged before the Supreme Court through an appeal. So appellate jurisdiction in civil cases. Similarly, article 134, appellate jurisdiction in criminal matters. A criminal case decided by the High Court can be taken before the Supreme Court through an appeal. That is 134. Then 134A, certain cases they need the certificate of the High Court for taking them before the Supreme Court. That is 134A. Then article 135. Under article 135, the present Supreme Court of India can exercise the jurisdiction and powers of the federal court created under the Government of India Act 1935. So even through this article, power of judicial review can be exercised by Supreme Court. On article 136, it deals with the special leave petition. This is very, very important power of the Indian Supreme Court, because any case decided by any court or any tribunal anywhere in the country except the military tribunals and the martial courts, they can be taken before the Supreme Court provided the Supreme Court gives its permission for admitting the case. So special leave petition gives superintendence and control to the Supreme Court over any court, over any tribunal below the Supreme Court. So this was an extraordinary power, article 136. In addition to this, we have article 245. Article 245 deals with the territorial extent of the laws made by the Indian Parliament and the state legislature. So this article can be invoked for exercising the power of judicial review. And article 246, I just told, 7th schedule of the Indian Constitution deals with article 246, union list, state list, concurrent list. So with respect to a subject matter in the 7th schedule, if there is a dispute between the center and the states, the Supreme Court can exercise its power of judicial review under article 246. In addition to this, we have 251, 254. 251, Under Article 249 and 250, Parliament and state legislatures can make laws on the subjects in the state list. In case there is a conflict, the laws made by the Parliament will be supreme. And that is 251. Conflict between state laws and central laws with respect to a subject in the state list. Then 254 deals with conflict between the central laws and state laws with respect to a subject in the concurrent list. So these two articles, they also confer the power of judicial review on the courts. In addition to this, the most important article, Article 32. Under Article 32, the Indian Supreme Court guarantees a set of fundamental rights to the citizens of India. If these fundamental rights are taken away by the executive or the legislative branch, the citizen of India can move the Supreme Court under Article 32 or the High Court under Article 226 for the enforcement of his or her fundamental right. So Article 32 gives power of judicial review to the Supreme Court with respect to the enforcement of the fundamental rights. Similarly, 226, this article empowers the High Court to enforce the fundamental rights of the citizens. Then similarly, 227, superintendence of the High Court over the subordinate courts. So all these articles, they confer the power of judicial review either on the Supreme Court or the High Court depending upon the case. And the most important article which confers the power of judicial review is Article 13 Clause 2. Article 13 Clause 2. Article 13 Clause 2 says, the state shall not make any law which takes away fundamental rights. So here, what do you mean by law? Is it an ordinary law or is it a constitutional amendment act? So the very first amendment to the Indian Constitution was challenged before the Supreme Court in this case, Shankari Prasad case. Shankari Prasad versus Union of India case, 1951. What is the issue before the Supreme Court? All the land reform legislations enacted by the state legislatures were being struck down by the High Courts and Supreme Courts on the ground that these laws are in conflict with the fundamental right to property. So to give immunity to these land reform legislations, Jawaharlal Nehru government enacted the first Constitutional Amendment Act in 1951. So this first amendment has created a new article, Article 31B, and has inserted a new schedule, 9th schedule. And this was an amendment to fundamental right to property. So all the land reform legislations which were included in the 9th schedule under Article 31B, they enjoy immunity from judicial review. So this amendment was challenged before the Supreme Court. So in this Shankari Prasad versus Union of India, the Supreme Court said, Parliament can amend the fundamental rights through a Constitutional Amendment Act under Article 368. So the first Constitutional Amendment Act was held to be valid, constitutionally valid. So according to Article 13 Clause 2, the state shall not make any law which takes away fundamental rights, means here ordinary law. So Parliament cannot make any law, Parliament cannot make any ordinary law which can take away fundamental rights. But Parliament can make constitutional amendment acts for taking away fundamental rights, for amending fundamental rights. So the same judgment was repeated in 1965, Sajjan Singh versus State of Rajasthan case. Sajjan Singh versus State of Rajasthan case. In this case, the Supreme Court repeated its earlier stand that the Parliament under Article 368 through a Constitutional Amendment Act can amend fundamental rights. But subsequently in 1967, another important case, Golaknath case. Golaknath versus State of Punjab, 11 judge bench by a majority of 6-5 said Parliament cannot amend fundamental rights under Article 368. They are sacrosanct and immutable. So in this case, the Supreme Court said Article 368 doesn't confer the power on the Parliament to amend fundamental rights. It speaks only about the procedure. If fundamental rights need to be amended, a new constituent assembly has to be created. That's what the judgment is in Golaknath case. To overcome the judgment of the Supreme Court in Golaknath case, Indian Parliament has enacted 24th Constitutional Amendment Act. by Mrs. Indira Gandhi government. So this amendment, 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, said that the power of the Indian Parliament to amend the Constitution under Article 368 includes the power to amend fundamental rights, power to amend any provision of the Indian Constitution. So this judgment was challenged before the Supreme Court again in one more case, Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala. In this case, a 13-judge bench by 7:6 majority said Parliament can amend fundamental rights. So it rejected the judgment in Golaknath case. Parliament can amend fundamental rights under Article 368, but has put a condition. It cannot amend basic features. So in the Indian Constitution, there are certain features which are fundamental, basic and essential. These features cannot be amended through a Constitutional Amendment Act under Article 368. And this judgment is very important because it is in the Keshavananda Bharati case that the doctrine of basic structure was laid down, and by applying the doctrine of basic structure, the Constitutional Amendment Acts made by the Indian Parliament can also be struck down. The power of judicial review of the Supreme Court can be extended even to the Constitutional Amendment Acts. Remember, this power is not available even to the American Supreme Court. That doesn't mean that it cannot exercise. The American Supreme Court is much more responsible in not exercising the power of judicial review with respect to Constitutional Amendment Acts. What is good in the best interest of the country must be left to the wisdom of the Parliament. So there in America, the American Supreme Court does not intervene. But here in India, the judges in India, the judiciary in India will try to intervene even in the Constitutional Amendment Act, and they will decide what is good and bad for this country, which is against the principles of representative democracy. So this is the criticism level. So in India today, by applying the doctrine of basic structure, the power of judicial review of the Supreme Court can be extended even to the Constitutional Amendment Acts. And I can give you an example. In 2015, the 99th Amendment related to NJAC, National Judicial Appointments Commission. Now, in India as of now, the judges are being appointed. The judges of the Supreme Court and the judges of the High Court are appointed by collegium consisting of only judges. There is no representation to the executive branch. So that's why to change the existing system of collegium, which is not transparent, the 99th Amendment has provided for the establishment of NJAC consisting of 6 members, out of which 3 are judges, 1 law minister, 2 members giving representation to civil society. Here in the NJAC, out of 6, 3 are judges. So there is no primacy for the judiciary in appointing the judges of the Supreme Court and High Court. The Supreme Court said primacy of the judiciary in appointment process of the Supreme Court and High Court itself is a basic feature. So the 99th Constitutional Amendment Act has taken away this basic feature of primacy of the judiciary in the appointments to the Supreme Court and High Court. So this amendment was struck down as constitutionally invalid. So in India, the position is the courts in India can exercise the power of judicial review not only with respect to the ordinary laws, not only with respect to the actions of the executive and legislative branches, but even with respect to the Constitutional Amendment Acts by applying the doctrine of basic structure. So that's it about the concept of judicial review. What is judicial review, where it took both, what is due process of law, what is procedure established by law, how this power of judicial review varies from country to country, like in India, America, Britain and France. Why judicial review? What are the different types of judicial review? What are the different provisions in Indian Constitution which explicitly provide for the concept of judicial review? And the cases related to judicial review that we will discuss again under the topics of judicial activism and public interest litigation. So this is again one more topic which is very important for UPSC mains exam, TSPSC Group 1 mains, APPSC Group 1 mains, and even for a Group 2, Group 1 civils prelims exam. So increasingly even in the state service exams of AP and Telangana, especially AP, the nature of questions, they were more of conceptual based and analytical based. So the student must have a deeper understanding of the subject to score better marks even in prelims exam of Group 1 civils and also Group 2 exam. So that's it about judicial review. Thank you.